Should I learn Esperanto? Why am I even talking about Esperanto today? Well, I've been interested in learning foreign languages for about 10 years now, and there are several people in the polyglot community or people, an online community of people who like to learn foreign languages who really encourage learning Esperanto and who even states that their lives have been changed by this language. If you want to read about their experiences, there are people like Benny Lewis or Judith Meyer. You can Google them and hear all about their experiences and their perspective on Esperanto, which could make for a good read if you're interested. Um, so I heard their experiences in the past, and I decided, finally, I'm going to take a look a bit more into the language, read more blogs and information about the language, and go on to Learn You, the website of Esperanto, where they have a forum and they have free lessons. I took the basic lessons and got a basic grasp of Esperanto. Now, in this video, I'll talk about how easy the language is, how the universality of it, interest, and then the subjective beauty of it. So those are the kind of main points that I'm going to focus in because that's kind of my initial impression in the time that I spent. I formed these basic impressions when I initially started learning it. So first of all, it's easy. It is easy, and I don't think that can be disputed. If you speak one European language, which it might be a bit harder for someone who's Japanese or Chinese, but if you can understand my video, it won't be that difficult for you. I was able to learn and understand the whole vocabulary in about a half an hour, and then another 15 minutes just kind of reading through the forum. I can now understand about, it depends on who's writing the post, but 75 to 90% of what's written in the forums there on the website, just based on prior knowledge of other European languages and the simple grammar. So it's an easy language. It's easy to pick it up. I would say if you spend 2 to 3 months dedicated to it, you could speak it to an acceptable conversational level. And now it was designed, the language Esperanto was originally designed to be this universal language by Dr. Zamenhof in order to, prevent war, bring about part of a more, the idea of it is a hope for peace and understanding among cultures. But how useful is it as a tool to bringing that about? How universal is it? And my argument is that no, it's not going to be a good universal language, or it may be a good option for it logically, and idealistically it may be a great language for that, but practically people in our world, I find, are not very logically or definitely not idealistically motivated. I think people are very financially motivated. So if English were to ever be replaced as the world's lingua franca, it will be another country whose economy is more prosperous and who will make people more money by speaking that language, get them jobs, business. People need to eat, people need to survive, people want a roof over their heads. In the end, that's why people across the world learn English. I don't think that Esperanto will be able to give that. It's more of a language that is for a certain interest group. If you have the interest, it can give a great subculture. I'll talk more about the Esperanto culture in a second, but I don't think it's a great lingua franca. Just because I don't think people will learn it as a society. But is it interesting? Now that I'm going to argue that yes, it is very interesting. It is this intellectual project of Dr. Zamenhof that evolved and turned into this international movement, a constructed language that has anywhere from 1 to 200,000 speakers who can speak it fluently, which is an amazing feat, I believe, that a language constructed by someone, not just this natural spontaneous language, but a constructed language turned into such a big movement. I think that's pretty amazing. I don't think, people argue about what culture is when I've been reading blog posts and does Esperanto have a culture? To me, a culture will have widely differing views, and people argue that Esperanto has that. It has its own culture with books and literature, but when I'm looking through the different titles and as people are writing, I think it has a very unique subculture. It is in and of itself a subculture with one predominant view, a certain political viewpoint that it seems to hold that's consistent throughout the vast majority of what I read and see in Esperanto. And it has a certain political viewpoint, a large number of vegetarians, um, and a certain personality type almost that is attracted to the language. So it has a certain bias of a personality type that goes into it and that learns the language. So well, I think it is very interesting, and that I would say, yes, you should, if anything, just even if you don't want to learn about it, read about it just because it's this fascinating project. Um, and then lastly, the very subjective beauty of it. Now, for me, a lot of people that speak it as a not quite fluently, and it doesn't sound that good to hear non-native speakers speaking a language, or to hear people stuttering or really focusing on each syllable or each word with more pauses in it. It just lacks a certain flow. Even people that speak it better, you know, the music that I've heard in Esperanto, I've listened to some songs, it just doesn't really excite me. That being said, I didn't like German. I didn't like Mandarin. Once I started to learn them, I really began to see how beautiful the languages can be, and now love listening to those two languages. The same could happen if I spend more time with Esperanto. I think you can develop um, a sense of beauty for it. But right now, to me, it sounds kind of like hearing someone recite Latin, which doesn't get me excited. Um, so, lastly, should I learn the language? Do I think it's right for me? Now, to learn any language, even an easy language like this, it would take at least 2 months of good, sustained study and being involved and engaged in the community. I just don't have that motivation. The fact that it's easy isn't a motivator for me because right now I'm actually more attracted to, I love languages. I love complexity in languages. I love complex writing systems. And right now I'm trying to learn Japanese and Chinese. I don't want to take too much time away from that to learn Esperanto. Um, as far as world travel, if you already speak several European languages, it's not going to offer a whole lot. What it will offer is that unique subculture. If you want to find these like-minded people that you may very much like it. You can they have conferences, they have a lot of great opportunities for people to meet up and travel. Um, but I'm just not motivated enough to take on the language for myself right now. That may change someday in the future, but at present, I don't think we're going to be spending too much more time on Esperanto. But I would love to hear, if you've learned Esperanto, if you've had experiences, positive or negative, with